Hello, I'm Curt Whitesell and want to welcome you to the coolest and most informative podcast in the Westfield, Indiana area. What's up, Westfield? What's up, Westfield is a local chat fest to dig deep into politics, development, who's doing what, and anything else we can fit into 45 minutes of fun online. If you have topics or an interest in being an amazing guest, please reach out to us. We'd love to hear your ideas. My guest today was well known around Westfield as a businessman and has an impressive professional career as both an owner of a CPA business and volunteering for local nonprofits. A few years back, he gained some steam locally as an outspoken, cut and dry city council candidate, and after winning, pulled no punches from day one. He may be well known for going toe-to-toe with the administration and leading a charge for more accountability in Westfield, but he's also one of the few councilors foregoing popular votes to advocate for his voters and his beliefs. This guy isn't stopping soon and has some unfinished work to do in Westfield. This should be a fun one, gang. Please welcome Mr. Troy Patton to the podcast. Hey, Troy, how are you today?
Good morning, or actually it's afternoon now. Sorry.
Yeah, you wake up late, right?
Yeah, every day. Usually by 10.
Just roll out of bed.
Yeah.
Hey, so we got a little bit of we're going to get a little pushback on this. I was told that for the love of God, don't have another white man on your podcast before you have someone else. And look what we have. I've got a couple women that are local, like awesome women locally, but they both had to reschedule. So,
well, I get to be the fill-in. I'm okay with that.
There's worse things you can be, right?
Yeah, I'm like the David Letterman show when you tune in, and then you're expecting somebody really funny and good, and they brought in some like B actor, right?
Right. Yep. Well, that's what this show is. It's full of B and C actors. So
perfect.
Welcome.
I should fit right in then. Yeah.
Hey, so Troy, the What's Up Westfield, this podcast is about anything going on in Westfield. Obviously, it's going to be politically driven, just to kind of get the word out for everybody what's going on. I think a lot of people don't know what's going on. And so I appreciate you doing it. So if we just get started by you just kind of telling us about yourself, where you're from, what you do, who you are, that.
Okay. Yeah. Pretty simple. I mean, not a lot there actually. Obviously, my name is Troy Patton. I grew up near Eaton, Indiana, which is between Muncie and Hartford City. Grew up on a small rural area, had some pigs. Went to Delta High School. Graduated from there. Wrestled in college. Graduated from Miami University, wrestled on the USA team in 1990. Was a scout in the communist bloc countries for a while. It's kind of fun and interesting. Cool. And then started my career at Ernst & Young, which is a worldwide CPA and consulting firm. And I have a sister. She lives in Westfield. She's a teacher, and my mother lives in the Indianapolis area, and kind of after we all moved out, they sold the place or whatever, and eventually started my own business after being a CFO at a chemical manufacturer, and I guess that's it. Really, not real exciting.
Well, you brushed over a lot of the details, but what was the chemical company you were a CFO of?
Yeah, so it was Correlated Products. So they made a private label laundry detergent. That was their big thing back then. They were a client of Ernst & Young. And I was working at E&Y, and they had heard about me or something and just gave me a job offer. And I said, hey, I don't have a resume together. And they said, hey, we'll give you 45% more than what you're making now.
I'll get a resume together.
I actually told him, I said, no need. I'll be there. When do I need to start? And
where was that at? Was that here
in Indianapolis? Yeah.
Okay.
And then my wife and I got married before that in '94. My wife's Kim. She's pretty active. She's on the library board. She's pretty active at Garin Catholic. She's a CPA also. Pretty smart, obviously smarter than me because she didn't run for city council, as I always said. And
That's another reason, but yeah.
yeah, just one of the many. But yeah, so and we have two kids, Jenna and Clay. My daughter's a junior at IU.
Okay.
My son's actually at Chapman University in California. He's a freshman. He's playing baseball out there and enjoying it. And so, Thanksgiving's coming up, everyone. I mean, obviously, this is kind of the month always to be grateful. I will definitely be grateful to have my kids back at home.
They're all coming back, huh? Or they are coming back. So that's cool.
Yeah.
But you guys don't work, you and your wife don't work together, correct?
We do occasionally. So for instance, we just helped out a friend, with their accounting because he had passed away or whatever, and so we kind of helped. We worked together. She did the accounting side. I ended up doing the taxes, and we kind of helped them on that. And then there's been a few valuation clients that we've worked together on. Sometimes if we're looking at something from a forensic side or she was an auditor also. So truthfully, she's a really good auditor, and did probably better than me. So so we work together. She has a few clients still to this day. So she's like a part-time CFO. Yeah.
I can't imagine how clean your household finances are. I mean, everything's got a name at the Patton house, I bet. Everything's allocated.
The funny thing is I don't even touch them. She takes care of it all. I'm not even so sure I don't know if we have money or don't have money. I have no idea.
She'll tell you when to stop spending.
That's right. Yeah. I'm probably on a budget,
So what what's the name of your company?
So we have a parent corporation called Patton Archer Corporation. But then we have the Archer funds, and the Archer funds, we manage 6 no-load mutual funds. And I got into that in 2005, and it's expanded to 6 funds. And then we have the investment management side and we put together model portfolios for other advisors kind of around the country. And then the other side of it is Patton and Associates, and that's even though I'm a CPA, mine stands for cut, paste, and assemble. As I would say, I mean, we do business valuation work. We value businesses for estate, gifting, stock options, marital dissolution. We typically have 15 to 20 engagements at any given time going on. Indiana is our largest market area, but we're pretty big in California, Florida, New York. I mean,
you're everywhere if you want to be. You're anywhere.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we've worked with everything from a Chinese dairy farm in China to literally companies in Ireland, Mexico, just a home builder in Japan, actually.
Interesting.
So yeah, we've done 20 million and under is our normal niche business that we serve. But every once in a while, we get some that are kind of outside the box.
So when did you start what year was it you started your company or started working individually?
Yeah, so a long time ago, back when I left the chemical company, I started a CPA practice from scratch, built it up to 10 offices, 72 people. And then a firm in Europe wanted to buy us out, so we sold it. And not to be too personal, but my father passed of a heart attack, and I kind of had this come to Jesus session with myself. And I thought, hey man, my kids are only going to be young once. I want to spend time with them, quality time. So sold that business in 2004. Crazy as I am, started up again in 2005, managing money. And now I don't know. I mean, we have 83 folks around the country, and and we also own a chocolate business as well.
All right.
So,
what's that chocolate business?
Yeah, it's Goods Candies. It's the original Goods Candies, and we ship kind of all over, but we have a store in Kennard, and we'd love to put one in Westfield, if we could at some point. I don't know if that's going to ever happen. So
that's an Indiana company though, right? Started in Indiana? Yeah.
Indiana company. It's about 100 years old. Yeah.
Is it? All right. How'd you end up with that?
Unfortunate circumstance. A couple were getting divorced. They want to sell it. and chocolate business, even during COVID, it was a great business to be in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those businesses, I hate to say it, alcohol and chocolate,
Yeah.
good times,
Add
bad.
pizza to that list.
And pizza. That was on the tip of my tongue, actually.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, breadsticks from Greeks, right?
Yep.
So,
Yep.
yeah. I mean, people, good times, bad times, they still buy it.
Yeah. Yep.
So, yeah.
Cool. All right. So you're cranking along. You've sold companies. You've started one up again because you were bored, and then you're cranking along again. And a few years ago, when did you have a nightmare or drink too much or something and decide you had some interest in politics?
Yeah, unbelievable nightmare. I was probably watching Sammy Terry on TV. Went to bed one evening and thought, "Gee, I ought to get into politics."
Yep.
No, not really. Actually, here's the funny thing, Curt. So in 1990, I actually, when I was at Miami of Ohio, I worked on George Bush Sr.'s presidential campaign,
Cool.
and just as a, nobody.
Uh-huh.
I mean, just kind of, passing out flyers, talking to people, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've always been involved, or at least, followed politics for quite a
Yep.
while. And it was some time ago. The big misnomer is people say, oh, and I hear this even from the mayor to myself, oh, you don't like Grant Park. It's not true. I've always said, even from the start, I like Grant Park. I don't even know how many times I have to say it. I do like Grant Park. But there were some things going on, from a political standpoint that, it just didn't seem right. And you can take that from a municipality standpoint to a state or federal level, and across the board. And really, Curt, is what I thought is, in 15 to 20 years from now, are my kids going to look back at me and say, "Hey, Dad, why didn't you do something? Why didn't you stand up? Why didn't you say something? Why didn't you get involved?"
Yeah.
And look, from someone who kind of preaches financial literacy myself,
Yeah.
I thought that we needed more financial literacy in our local government, and I suspected that from a period of time. And just to let you know, my father was an educator. He was our wrestling coach at Delta High School. My mom was an educator, and my sister is one.
Yeah.
And the one thing that always bothered me, Curt, is when the state of Indiana created TIF districts. They were made for economic redevelopment. They were made for a certain reason. And I think over time that's kind of been abused by politicians, as often is the case. A good idea gets expanded, and here in Westfield, it's unarguable that when we create TIF districts and we have assets in those TIF districts, or we place those in there, that the schools don't get as much money. I mean, that's unarguable.
Yep.
So, over the period of time, we've created these TIF districts, and I'm not saying that I wouldn't have done the same thing had I been mayor, but maybe not as much, only to the extent that you needed to pay off certain debts, as opposed to creating a vast amount of cash to create the next pet project. I just don't think that's the right way to go about it. I think the monies should be in the schools, going to support teacher pay, which I always think teachers are underpaid, frankly. And that's not a political ploy. I think that's just a fact. So I got involved.
Okay. Is it what you thought it would be? Is being a counselor what you thought it was going to be?
I will tell you this: I really thought there'd be more collaboration.
Huh. Okay.
To be quite
Explain
honest.
that. Explain what you mean by that.
Yeah. Well, so I always hear people say, well, they're arguing, right, or whatever. I mean, there's arguments going on, to give you like a specific, if I say, hey, let's go over this document or that document, or Grand Park finances or whatever. Well, what do you want to see? Well, let me see all of it. Well, be specific. Okay, well, give me all the financial statements, or let me look at the financial statements. I look at them, and then I point something out that may not be accurate or what people think is going on. And then, publicly, there's, notices out there and people saying, well, he should have never even had those financial statements. Well, that's funny. You're the one that gave them to me.
Yeah.
Why are we not working together to resolve these issues as opposed to, calling each other out on the outside? And Curt, look, I'm just as guilty of it. I mean, because, but the one thing I always believed is, even in city council meetings, a lot of people think they're kind of crazy. I actually love the fact that we actually talk about things in public, because it is the public's business. It's the public's money.
And I think you've said that many times, that that's what you feel that meeting is for, or part of that meeting is for.
Yeah. Curt, a good example is the communication on this year's budget. We had plenty of opportunity to do it. And I realize, Jeremy's new in that position. And I actually think Jeremy does a pretty good job.
He does,
whether he likes me or not, doesn't matter to me. I actually like Jeremy. I think he's a good guy. I think his heart's in the right place. But the problem is, once again, we lacked communication. We go to, in any business, would you ever go to employees and say, and this is a dig, but it's factual. Would you go to your employees and say, hey, I'm going to try to get you a 5% raise, but I got to talk to my bosses to make sure that we're going to do that. And when they come back at 4%, you have a company-wide meeting and say, hey, I'm really sorry they let you down. That's just pitting people against one another for political sake, as opposed to collaborating, being accountable and transparent with one another. Yeah.
Troy, the working together thing, and obviously it was a big flip in the council this last when you ran.
Yeah.
Do you think a lot of it is just because there was so much opposition between the two sides that it was just too far in the fight that everybody decided they just weren't going to work together? Or do you think it could have been done better?
Oh, yeah. The funny thing is, Curt, from the very outset, if you ask myself, Scott Fry, or anyone like that, we went into it with, eyes wide open and ready to meet. My first meeting with the city was with Todd, right? The first thing he says to me is, I hear you and I are going to butt heads.
Nice to meet you.
Actually, you know what, Curt, that's exactly what I said. I said, well, hey, it's nice to meet you. I said, I'm not sure what you've heard. He said, well, that you don't like this. I said, hey, look, I put out my 10 reasons. These are the reasons I ran. These are the things I want to take a look at and see if we can't work together. That ended instantly. I met with the mayor. I talked to him about it, and frankly, he would say things that just weren't true. And it's not being disrespectful to say that I don't respect him, but I respect people that want to work together, and I won't have every good idea. In fact, I think Andy's had a lot of good ideas. But you have to be willing to listen a little bit, as opposed to only convey. And sometimes that truth lies somewhere in the middle, oftentimes. And I think that that's kind of how, when you were talking about, I don't think it was set to be punishing at the outset, but it just continues to be that way. And unfortunately, there was that history with the mayor and the court treasurer that's gone on far too long. And that rolls over to other people as well.
Let's talk about the clerk treasurer and the mayor and that whole debacle. That thing was run out as far as it could be run out. Was there a way to resolve that a year early? And
we tried. I had told the mayor, and I know others had told the mayor, hey, drop the lawsuits. We don't need this. And even with Grand Park, we didn't need the grand examination that costs $1 million. All we said is, hey, all we want to do is let's go through and dive through the financials, right? I'm a CPA. Relatively speaking, I think I could have gone through the financials and figured certain things out. We didn't need to spend $1 million to do it. And then suing, and I don't know if the lawsuit was to divert people's eyes, on different things, but it was uncalled for. And if you think about it, Kurt, the only people that paid were the taxpayers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you
So
think do you think it forced anything that would not have come to light? Like the lawsuit? I don't know if any information was forced out because of the lawsuit, but do you think it did play a role in some of the clarity? Or do you
I
think it
don't
was just
I,
excessive?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what we really gained. I mean, I don't think
Mm-hmm.
we gained anything.
And not, I've asked that a lot. Nobody really knows what the lawsuit part of it gained, other than maybe attorney fees. But um,
Yeah.
I feel like most of the information came to light with or without that part of it. So
Yeah.
I hated the lawsuit. I hate it.
Yeah. Nobody wins
But
in this. Nobody ever wins. Even if
yeah,
somebody wins, nobody wins.
Troy, one of the things you talked about the meetings being public and you guys have your disagreements, or you're comfortable with that. You're a thick-skinned guy, I feel like, and
Yeah.
you're black and white on a lot of stuff, and um, you don't mind disagreeing with person to the left or right of you, and you can walk out and be buddies after that. That's not hard for you.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people it's really hard for.
Yeah.
Do you think and I don't want, you're not speaking for the other counselors, but do you think that affects some of the way the counselors behave in meetings? Like they don't want to be as outspoken, or they want to be more outspoken just because of the reaction and how it goes over publicly? Um,
I don't think so.
mm-hmm,
I think if you've probably noticed, I mean, even like Cindy Spoljarek and I, like, we don't always agree on everything, right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
But the funny thing is, I think she respects me and I respect her. So
mm-hmm.
I like hearing that she disagrees with me on something, or that I disagree with her. And then that way,
Mm-hmm.
and actually, if you've listened to the meeting, sometimes we'll even talk about it and why
Yeah.
we, and sometimes it makes me think as well. And,
Mm-hmm,
I think that's a good thing. I'm sure
mm-hmm,
Jake Gilbert and I don't always agree on
mm-hmm.
everything. And
Yeah.
in fact, Mike Johns and I don't agree on everything.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say the person that I agree most with is probably Scott Fry.
Is it?
I mean, we have a lot of the same type of opinions,
Yeah.
and I think sometimes he comes up with a better idea than me. I
Does
mean,
he?
to address something, but um, I, 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 I think disagreement is good.
Mm-hmm,
As long, disagreeing for the sake of disagreeing is not good.
mm-hmm.
But if you truly disagree with something, you should say,
Yeah.
"Hey, I maybe disagree with that. What about this?" And then maybe they have a good rationale why, and then it makes you think about it, and it sharpens your mind, and you say, and then maybe you come back and say, "Okay, well, that makes sense."
Do you watch how other councils, I know you've watched other council meetings, but it seems like in past councils that a lot of that business gets taken care of in executive sessions or private or outside of that public council meeting. Would you prefer it was in the public council meeting as opposed to privately amongst the councilors?
I think so. I think
Do
it should
you?
be in public.
Do you?
Yeah, the executive sessions are only for legal
Mm-hmm.
matters, or pending legal matters. So, and as you know, as city councilors, for instance, we cannot communicate um, uh, amongst the seven of us outside of city council. I can think I can only communicate with maybe two others, or
Two
those are.
others, yeah. Yeah.
So, and then I can't communicate with those two, and they can't go then talk to two more,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like the telephone game.
Yeah.
You can't do that. So I prefer to talk about it in open.
Mm-hmm.
I do like to have the meetings also behind the scenes prior to, so people have their facts straight.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's always good, to talk in empirical terms as
Uh-huh.
opposed to just conjecture.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I learned a long time ago. Have you ever heard of YEO or YPO? You ever heard of those groups?
Mm-hmm.
YEO it used to be Young Entrepreneurs Organization,
Oh, okay.
and it was people that own businesses, and they all get together. And you could only say, in my experience, this is what I think, right?
Okay.
So that way, it wasn't like, hey, Curt, I think the shirt you have on is blue, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you say, well, no, it's gray or dark
Yeah.
gray, right?
Yeah.
You can't talk about how you feel. It has to be from experience,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of like that. And that's why I like the city council. From my experience, hey, like, I think everybody gives a different perspective on where they came from. I mean,
Yeah.
whether it be everybody from Scott Willis to Jake Gilbert,
Mm-hmm.
to Mike Johns, to Joe Edwards, to Cindy Spoljaric, to Scott Fry, and myself.
Mm-hmm.
I think the funny thing is, even though from in some respects it's not diverse, it is a very diverse group.
Sure.
Actually.
It is. Yeah. From backgrounds. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What do you
So,
think makes a good council as a group? What is a solid council that gets a lot done, do you think?
yeah, from our perspective, I actually think a lot does get done.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't we've declined, I think, one thing that's come before us, or one project.
Mm-hmm.
And
What was that?
that was Birch's building next to the schools.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah, I think that was the only thing that came from APC that had a favorable rating that we
Okay.
voted. I
Okay.
probably didn't like the way we did it,
Mm-hmm.
to be quite fair. But at the same time, I mean, I think it worked out, and it moved that ball forward, and kind of got it off the playing field.
I
But I'm
completely
sorry,
forgot about that.
yeah, back to your point, Curt, is that
Mm-hmm.
I think a council that works good together is one that has diverse views and offers diverse opinions. I'm
Mm-hmm.
actually okay with that. Obviously, at the end of the day, I want our decisions to be based on fact and empirical data.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just my CPA mind.
Yeah. Do you feel like this group has morphed into a good working council over time?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's some things I don't care for still. I mean, but and things that I don't, so there's times, I mean, like, I'm like, oh, we really didn't have to say that or go into
Mm-hmm.
that. But overall, I would say, yeah, I think,
Yeah.
I think it's pretty good. And you know what, it lets the development community know that, I mean, you have to bring your best to us.
Yeah.
Um, I don't get, if you've listened to me, I don't get involved in like colors and all this kind of stuff, because I just don't. I mean, I always feel like that's not my job, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my job is to look at it from a financial perspective and how it impacts the taxpayer,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I'm focused on.
That's not always the case.
It's not, but that's that diverse opinion,
Yeah.
that
Some people care more about the design or other things than
yeah,
the
absolutely,
finances or something. So
yeah.
so what do you think is the responsibility of the council? If you had to really make it clean and cut and dry, what a councilor's job is to do, how would you describe that?
Yeah, I think it's pretty easy, and in fact, it's written.
Mm-hmm.
Our job is to protect the financial integrity of the taxpayer, and to protect that taxpayer. So, I mean, we make laws, rules, and budgets in accordance with those, with that financial integrity. Yeah.
And looking back, when you decided to actually go run and put yourself out there for it, what were a couple of issues that were really heavy on you, as that the counselors maybe didn't take as serious or were doing wrong in your mind, that you were against?
Yeah.
What were some things?
Yeah, and just to be clear, look, I think
Mm-hmm.
Jim Ake's a nice guy. Chuck Lehman. I mean,
We're all
I don't,
nice guys.
yeah. But we definitely had a rubber stamp city council
Okay.
prior. I mean, the majority. I mean, one thing that bothered me was the accountability and transparency. When I went to a few meetings, Curt, and Cindy Spoljaric at the one meeting, I don't remember when it was, she said, "I've been asking for that document." It was on a vote, and I think it could have been about Grand Junction, I believe, or
Mm-hmm.
something maybe to that extent, I believe. And one of the other city councilors said, "Well, I've had it for 4 weeks, and if you don't have it, that's that's your problem, right?" And I thought, you've got to be kidding me. I mean, we can't even be transparent with one another and accountable to one another on the city council, that not everybody has the same documentation. One of the things that I think has been really good, Curt, is that every city councilor, when we were going to vote on something, that everybody has the same documentation. It goes to rerun.
Was it not before? Like, were there times where it was inconsistent?
I don't believe it was.
Yeah.
I don't think. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
And I'm interrupting you. Why would that be? Who doesn't give the right information? Who distributes information to you all?
Well, it comes from the city,
Mm-hmm.
or it comes from someone else on city council. If they're proposing something, it would then get disseminated to the rest of the six.
So
Or
you feel like in the past, maybe it was a need to know basis, and they would
absolutely,
distribute it maybe to the people that maybe weren't going to question it, and then others would be left in the dark.
yeah.
That
I think it was a 5-2 council. I mean,
okay.
frankly, and so those five that were just going to rubber stamp everything for the mayor, they got the information. I mean, why would Cindy not have it? Why would Joe Edwards not have that information?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that just didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And after all, I mean, if they're going to vote, they should be voting on, I mean, on a knowledge-based system.
Yeah, they should have the information. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, what is something that, I mean, looking back, do you think there's anything that would not have gotten through if all the information was out there?
I don't think Grand Junction would have at the level it was. I was so one of the when that whole thing was going on, and actually, I think Chuck Lehman actually had a really good idea. I don't know if you remember. He actually he was outside talking about, hey, we could do something for $13 million and help the rest of the business community to build the rest, right? Which I'm always for the private sector to do more. So is what I remember talking. I think it was to him or someone else, and I said, gee, if we're going to spend this much money, and by the way, it's not just 35 million, it's over 50 million, I mean, with land acquisition and everything else, why wouldn't we create some kind of gas lamp district similar, to like a San Diego has or something like that, with all those homes? We could buy up all those homes, get with the business development community. Our costs would be much lower. We'd be, we could bring them in. It'd be a taxable base. We wouldn't necessarily have a park that's non-taxable, or if we did, it would be much smaller, but it would already be built up by the business community around it. And it would have created a much larger tax base, created a true downtown. But instead, we did this one-off system because the only grand ideas only came from one office,
Yeah.
And I think that's very short-sighted.
Do you wish there were more, as Grand Junction Plaza was being planned and developed, do you wish more public-private partnerships from a development standpoint were occurring simultaneously?
Absolutely. 100%.
Like Union Square, would you like to have seen 3 of those going, or is it something else you're thinking?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. I actually think that's going to be a pretty neat, landmark for us, or a piece of the puzzle. I was all for that. But if you think about where the houses are, and I think you have a house possibly even listed, or you did maybe along that the
Jersey Street.
Along that row. Think about if we went to the development community and said, hey, we'd like to help, get you these properties, and we're going to make a 2-story thing. We're going to have apartments up top, and on bottom is going to be retail, and have a true walk around downtown area with maybe the cornerstone of being Old Town's Place or something like that. That would have been really great, and we could have spent less money and had the business community build up the rest of it.
Do you think a project like that could get through this council?
I think so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously it has to make sense, right? But I mean, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about the tax dollars that we would generate, right? And in doing so, Curt, I mean, I heard I listened to your podcast actually. So
sorry.
Yeah, I know. So somebody said, well, there's no vision. Well, just remember, each person's thoughts and ideas are visions, right? I always hate it when somebody says, "Oh, they don't have any vision." The reality is somebody that has a vision of it staying the same is still a vision.
Sure.
It's just not their vision, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my vision, would be to create that downtown and have a great taxable base of businesses,
Mm-hmm.
and have it be 2 stories, and wrapped around similar to like a gas lamp district, if you've ever been there. Where, you have bars and restaurants and boutique
Mm-hmm.
shops downstairs, and upstairs is living and that sort of thing. It's all taxable.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the kind, at the end of the day, everything has to make financial sense. And for us as a community, we talk a lot about growth, and I'm not trying to lead you into the next area, but we talk about growth a lot. But we say, hey, if we added $100 million of tax base,
Mm-hmm.
but we spent, everything but $1,
Mm-hmm.
and we really didn't have anything else, did that make sense?
Yeah, no, it's a break even. Yeah.
Yeah, growth for the sake of growth is not growth. Growth is either, by return on investment, just as my people I work with in my businesses, they want return on their investment. Taxpayers really should demand the same thing.
Sure.
And I think our return on investment, Curt, our number one asset is our schools.
Mm-hmm.
That should be our number one return on investment.
True. So I want to go back to this public-private partnership thing. I know you are not a fan of TIFs, but in a scenario like that, TIF has been the biggest weapon typically in the past for funding a lot of that. How do you think there's better tools for that type of scenario, or would that be maybe an instance that a TIF might be worth exploring?
Yeah, so it's not that I'm opposed to a TIF if it's used properly. What I don't like, Curt, is having an excessive TIF, right? Or how about this? How about a TIF that was supposed to expire, but we went ahead and renewed it because we had other projects instead of releasing that money? And the argument I hear is that, well, the city would lose out on some of that money. Some of it, yes, would go to the schools that they were not getting, and police and fire would get some of that money, but we would not be able to capture that $1. We would only be capturing maybe like 38 cents of that dollar. But that's abuse of the system. So in your instance, what you're asking me about, I wouldn't mind using a TIF, but you make it like a 10-year TIF and it expires, it's out, as opposed to creating some long drawn out,
And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Be careful with my words.
I know. When the city was doing the TIF districts originally, when I was just kind of starting to pay attention, it was, and I might be wrong, but it seemed like they were blanketing an area that was in a TIF district, not specific to a project.
Correct.
And so what it did was it held that area up. So no matter what went on in there, it was already in the TIF. But and that right there is too generic for you. But if it's something that you can assign $1 with $1 and it functions on its standalone project, you would consider a TIF like that.
Absolutely.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah, I think, Curt, if 85% of the people in Westfield don't care, they don't vote, they don't even pay attention, right? Or maybe it's 95%. I don't know.
But, and they don't listen to this podcast for sure. So.
That's true. But maybe we'll change that. But I think the majority of those people, even those people that honestly don't care, if they listen to that, like what you and I just kind of discussed, in practical terms, they could get their arms around that and say, that makes sense.
Yeah.
We could be, especially as they go to the voting booths and they're going to vote on a referendum again. And they say, hey, okay, I'm all for a TIF if it makes sense and it's individualized and it's micro as opposed to macro managed, and I think they probably get behind that, because then you go to the poll and you say, hey, okay, I don't mind the referendum because I know money's going to come off and the schools are going to get more money, otherwise, right? But if you're going to do the same thing and we're going to repeat the same mistakes over and over and keep asking for the next referendum, which will happen if we don't release.
Sure.
I can't get into, I'm on the committee for Grand Park on the Sunday, so I can't talk a lot about that. But think about this. If somebody were to buy Grand Park, they're not going to buy it and make it a taxable area.
Correct.
I mean, so
Why
because
would they? Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So,
Mhm.
so if I'm a taxpayer, I'm going, what do I care? I mean, why would I even want to sell it then? Because I'd rather have the schools have opportunity and use of the
Mhm.
system, at least. I
Yeah.
mean, so anyways,
What okay, so on the TIF kind of thing, one thing you've mentioned in or at council meetings, you've been pretty you've said we don't need more money, right? Or and I know I'm just saying that out of context, but you
no,
said
that's
we don't need more money.
right.
And I would like you, because I don't know if you had a long-winded answer, if that's really how you would say it, but what do you mean by that? That
Yeah.
Westfield doesn't need more money?
I actually, I am so glad you asked me that. It's almost like, you
Okay.
wrote, I wrote it out for you and I gave it to you.
Yeah,
Right.
thanks for the list of questions.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I'm Hillary Clinton in the debate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. So, um, uh, that context, it's somewhat taken a bit out of context, right? I mean, the paraphrasing, hey, we don't need the additional business. My
Uh-huh.
point is that I'm not for saying, hey, let's get this additional business in here that's going to provide $1 million in every year in property taxes. Oh, and by the way, because we did that, we need to put in more infrastructure, roads, a new fire department, and spend 1,010,000.
Hmm.
So everything has to be measured twice and cut once.
Hmm.
And I've said that numerous times.
So you're
But
not against, you're not anti-development.
absolutely not. No, I'm not. I mean,
Mhm.
I know people. The rhetoric is that even in our own homeowners meeting, a person said, "Oh, well, this city council's against growth." I'm like, that's insane, right?
If you had to describe how you feel about growth, what are you for,
I, I'm
from a
from
growth standpoint?
I'm for measured growth and bringing your best idea to us,
Hmm.
right? And the one thing, Curt, that I believe is, so think about it in this concept. Um, People move to Westfield, right? For what we have.
Hmm.
Westfield really is unique, and I think it's special. And they move here. They don't move here because they say, "Boy, I'm moving there, and I hope they put in a Costco." I mean, you've seen that on Facebook.
Hmm.
I'm moving to Westfield, boy, but I hope they put in a Cracker Barrel. Cracker
Hmm.
Barrel.
Cracker Barrel comes up a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Waffle House. I mean,
Uh-huh.
right. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm moving there, but why? I wish they would put in this. I wish
Mhm.
you moved to Westfield. If you really wanted if you wanted those amenities, move to Indianapolis. Why wouldn't you
Mhm.
buy a home there? You don't. Why wouldn't you move to Fishers? Move somewhere else. You don't. You go to Westfield because there is some quaintness about it. The
Mhm.
schools are very good, and you're coming because of that. If you're moving here for the hopes that there's a Costco coming, you're probably second guessing you're kind of arguing against the very point why you moved here to begin with.
I do know firsthand that there is a large group of people that moved here um, because they're hoping it becomes developed like the other Hamilton County cities, and they could afford to get in at the time. Um,
Westfield's not
and,
cheap.
and so Westfield is not cheap, especially there. And we're about all the same now, but there is a large group of people that wonder why it hasn't. They haven't gotten the Costco. I mean, I would beg to differ that there's as many people that want that growth as opposed to the people that don't want that growth.
Yeah.
And so we used to do inbound relocation for a pretty big tech company on the west side, and all over the country they were hiring, and nearly everybody moved to Westfield because they couldn't quite squeeze into this 10 years ago. They couldn't quite squeeze into Carmel, but they knew Westfield would get to be like Carmel or Fishers or, someday.
Yeah.
And so now they're grown up and now they're real mouthy because they're like, well, why hasn't anything happened? And
Yeah.
all we've gotten is the tire shop. And so I think there
10 of
is
them.
10 of them. Yeah. We don't have that many tires. So
Yeah.
I do think there is a push. People really do want to see progress and
Yeah.
and growth. So
I I mean, look, I'll shoot myself in the foot on that one. I mean, because I'll tell you, I mean, I don't mind. I mean,
Yeah.
why move here with the hopes of something? I mean,
Yeah.
if you really wanted those items, go, go where they already have it.
Mm-hmm.
Because, remember, and maybe you've heard me say this, I'm all for protecting the people that live here today, not the people that live here tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Or
Yeah.
I mean, everybody wants to be the last person that moves into Westfield,
Mm-hmm.
and then they want this.
Yeah.
It's just not. It doesn't work that way.
Can't have
I mean,
everything.
no, I
Do
mean,
you do
yeah,
you feel like we've so all right on from a development standpoint, we've kind of stalled from a commercial development standpoint.
yeah.
And some people say that's fine. We're resetting, we're measuring, right? Other people are saying, well, it's just sitting there. It's a pent up demand, and it's the day that the right scenario comes forward with the right councilor, the right council, the right mayor. It's coming right back full speed. Um, what do you want to happen?
I hope it doesn't. And and this is. Let me clarify that.
Uh-huh.
Um, I don't think Westfield stalled. I mean, we
Uh-huh.
just had Ortho Indy go in. We've got a market district going in. I mean, we have a lot of things still going in, still being built. Old Town's going to redevelop the downtown. The one thing that we are missing that Carmel has, even
Mm-hmm.
Fishers, Zionsville, everybody around us has a downtown.
Mm-hmm.
We have no downtown,
There's
Curt.
no downtown.
I mean, what we have, that is not a downtown.
No.
I
We have an
mean,
intersection.
that's it though. I mean,
Yeah.
even
No, we do not have a downtown.
Tipton has a downtown. Sheridan has a
Mm-hmm.
downtown.
Mm-hmm.
Cicero. I love going to 10 West. It's a great restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
They have a little cute downtown.
Yeah.
We have no downtown. I think Old Town building that and 32 getting redone is going to help create that downtown. I would
Yeah.
hope, but I do hope it's somewhat centralized in that area and builds out around those houses that are still there. Frankly, that's kind of what I'd like to see.
Troy, for 10 years straight, my phone rang off the hook. I built a business around commercial development ground in Westfield.
Yep.
And I don't get a call anymore. I can't get them. They'll take my call because I've given them found them a lot of real estate in the past, but they're not interested in Westfield anymore.
Okay.
So you
Because
say
of
it
the
hasn't
politics. Because of the
because of the
politics.
politics. Yeah, because of the politics, and not. I think there's a lot of barrier to entry. So why would they even go somewhere where it's a contest versus going somewhere they just walk in, it's a done deal. But um, I don't, to me, it frustrates me that they have an opinion that they don't even want to, it's not even worth trying to come to Westfield
Yeah.
um, because of the current climate.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I'm not so sure I buy that. I mean, if I'm a developer, my job is to get the easiest, cheapest thing and put up the thing I can make the most money on
Mm-hmm.
as easily as possible. And fair enough. If Fishers is that place, have
Mm-hmm.
at it, right?
Yeah.
I'd rather focus on the people that we have here currently,
Mm-hmm.
the tax rate that we have, and by the way, our tax rate is higher, as
Mm-hmm.
you probably know. So I
Yep.
mean, so we're competing against probably a lower tax rate as often as the case.
Which
But
is offset by commercial real estate, correct?
yeah, sure, yeah, but I just, I mean, to give you an example, Curt, you probably don't even remember this. You remember years ago, I wanted to buy that building next to Quality Farm and Fleet, and I actually
Yeah.
called you.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah.
And I said, hey, I'd like to buy that building, and I said, this is what I think it's worth, and I think I
Mm-hmm.
was right. And I think you said, oh, I got somebody buying it. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I watched, nobody bought it, right? Prices were too high.
Yeah.
I mean, the prices in Westfield were too high.
Yeah.
I think
Yep.
that's the one that Webster and Garino are in now.
They're in it now. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think everything kind of revolves. Building is still going up, or you have Ortho Indy going up. The one thing that never came to fruition, and this
Uh-huh.
is not the fault of the council or you know, or maybe it is on our planning. We never really developed a true comprehensive plan, and we have not kept that up to where, hey, this is really what I would like, how we would love to see Grand Park be built out.
Yeah.
This is the rendering of it. I know you guys with the Downtown Westfield Association are doing that for downtown.
Yeah.
Thank heavens, because it
Yeah.
hasn't been done. Right. I mean,
Yeah, no, it's exciting. Yeah, it is one of the reasons that the development community there's a disconnect. So
yeah.
it'll be nice to have a tool like that.
So yeah, so that's my point. So if I'm in the development community and I can look at Fishers and I say, hey, this is how Fishers is being built out around their downtown. I see it, right? Makes sense. I
Yeah.
see that in Carmel. In Westfield, you don't see it. I mean,
No.
you don't. I mean, unless somebody has something that I don't know about. Yeah.
Well, you haven't been given the information yet, maybe. Yeah.
That's true. Maybe I haven't. Yeah.
Hey, so you said Grand Park. What would you like to? How would you? And I'm not talking about the sale or anything, but how would you like to see Grand Park developed out? Well, around it, what would you think would be cool uses and what do you think is cool out there?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll give you a good example. So, I read online, somebody said, well, Indy Fuel, chose Fishers over Westfield. They owned it, and they even owned property here. Well, they own property in Fishers too, just to be clear, right?
Sure.
I mean, and actually that deal was probably dead before this city council even came in, just so you know. Because
because they didn't bring a deal here, did they? They never even brought anything.
Well, they kind of had an idea of what they wanted to do, and I think it was shot down. Yeah. I mean, prior to even this city council being there. But honestly, Curt, I mean, if we are truly going to be the amateur sports capital, why wouldn't we go to somebody and say, hey, let's get a place to put in 6 ice hockey rinks out at Grand Park? Because the one thing we don't have is we do have a hotel usage in the winter, but it's not as great.
Yeah,
hockey's a big sport, and people travel. They're used to traveling a long ways. Put in a huge ice hockey, development with 6 rinks in there. I mean, I would do that. I would continue to build out Grand Park in a sports fashion. The iBeach volleyball thing. That went in. I think that I'm glad they're doing that. I'd love to see that. I would love to see that expanded. I mean, the Academy volleyball is now, going into Grand Park events. I think that's good for us. I would like to see Grand Park built out in terms of amateur sports.
Okay.
I mean, really, the development community is not wanting to spend that kind of money on that land out there.
Sure.
The only people that want to do it are people that want to put up apartments.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
We're good. Yeah. I like apartments, but I think it's suddenly going to turn into a apartment like Caprina Green down there over there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And Curt, hey, just while we're on the subject of apartments, I'm not a big fan of a lot of apartments. And actually, if you talk to like the chief of police or the chief of police in Fishers, one of their problems has been putting in too many apartments.
Was it?
I mean, it's because it doesn't pay for itself. Yeah.
I would like the density of apartments in our downtown once we identify what our downtown is, because I think it does create a central business district and vibrancy. But yeah, you can overbuild suburban apartments for sure. Overbuild suburban apartments, and they're getting expensive. So it's not as if just to build apartments alone. I think we won't see any.
Yeah, owner equivalent rents in Westfield are outrageous.
Yeah, it is. Yep. Well, Troy, I know we didn't get real hard into anything. We're almost at our hour, by the way.
Ask me the hard question. Come on.
I don't. We don't have time for that. 2 hours. What is something you hope that people? So we've got and maybe you'll do this. Who do you want the next council to be? Do you want it to stay how it is? Well, some people are going off. You're running again.
Yeah.
Correct. Fry running again?
I believe so.
Okay. And I know you're not speaking for anybody, but who would you like on that council? Do you have anybody that you want to run or that you're trying to hope they come jump in, or what type of person?
Yeah, I think in District One, I won't say who it is, but I think there's a really good person there, has really
Okay.
good business experience.
Uh-huh.
Um, Truthfully, I would like to, if another CPA came to me and said, "Hey, I want to get on city council or whatever," I'd be like, "Hey, go ahead. I'll step off." Right.
You can have it.
This is what I would tell you, Curt. No matter
Uh-huh.
who the next mayor is going to be, and actually, we have two
Yeah.
people running, right? Jake
Yep.
Gilbert and Scott
Right
Willis.
now. Yep.
Look, I have my preferences. I'm,
Sure.
you know, but at the same time, whoever gets elected, it, I can guarantee you we won't have the same combativeness that we do now.
Sure. I'd hope not. Yeah.
Oh, I think without question.
Yeah.
And whether I agree with Scott Willis or not on certain things or not, if he is the next mayor, I can assure you it won't be like this.
Yeah.
If Jake Gilbert is the next mayor, Jake's already said he goes I can bring people together, and he is. I mean, he's a good person.
He is a good person. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice guy.
This is not going to. We will not have this combativeness
Mhm.
that's going on with this administration, and I think things will be more open. I mean, definitely.
What are you looking forward to in the next couple of years in Westfield?
You know what? I'm not really sure. Other than I hope we make a difference from a financial standpoint.
Mhm.
For the taxpayer. Of course, I'd love to see taxes continue to be reduced. I
Mhm.
really believe that over the next couple of years, I think we could probably get rid of one of the TIF districts, release
Mhm.
that money back to the schools, and I think work in a true collaborative form with the best asset of our city, and that is the schools.
Yeah.
I'd love to
No,
see
for
that over the
sure.
next couple of years.
And we've got some pretty good, like Bryant, Toe, Michael. Those guys are. I mean, we've got some good leaders over there. So.
Yeah, I think Brian Sharp. I like the new superintendent,
Yep.
John Etha, who's the assistant.
Yep.
I mean, I think those are good quality people to have. I
Yeah.
think they're smart.
Yeah.
I mean, they're business minded folks, and
Mhm.
I think the most important thing, at least I know this about Dr. Etha and the superintendent, they put the kids first, and
Yeah.
that's all, and
For sure.
that in and of itself is what our whole city should be about.
Yeah. Well, Troy, I think I went easy on you. I know you don't care. I know you're open to whatever, but I think I appreciate you coming on and
Yep,
giving us some
no problem.
insight on you doing the council. And good luck in the future. And
Yeah,
thanks again.
same to you. Okay,
All right.
appreciate it, Curt.
See ya.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.